Desmond Bane, your immediate thoughts when the trade happened on Sunday, and then there's been a lot of takes. It's a weird trade, a lot of layers to it. Have you changed your mind in the days since it went down?
That's interesting. So my initial reaction was, wow, Desmond Bane is available. Right? Now this tracks for me. I think everyone's available. Mm-hmm. Everyone. Jalen Brown and Derek White are available. I think every player that isn't Jokic, Shea, Giannis, he's not available. I think that pretty much everyone's available. But Bane getting moved, to me, the Grizzlies are the more interesting side of this, not the Magic. The Magic overpaid, but that's now the price you have to pay if you don't want other teams to jump in. So, hey, wow, Desmond Bane is available? I had no idea.
Right.
Okay.
Before
don't
the
tell
word gets
anyone.
Out. Yeah.
Don't tell anyone. We're going to give you this stuff. And like KCP, that's great for them to get off that contract because he just didn't work there. He's just not the guy that they needed.
Yep. And I think one of these picks, Desmond Bane went for 3. One of these first is to get off the KCP contract.
Right. Yep. And that Phoenix 2026 pick is super interesting because I would assume that if you own that pick, you're going to be able to get in on the KD trade one way or the other, because I would be offering Phoenix, hey, do you want your draft pick back next year? And then that gives them flexibility, right? Like the way we just saw Brooklyn kind of get worked a little bit into getting their picks back. So, I mean, look, it's really good business by Memphis because you get an offer like that for Desmond Bane, who was all on a big contract for Desmond Bane.
Yep.
And which for Orlando, that's pretty good money. But for Memphis, that's big money because they've got Ja and they've got Jaren that they have to think about. So I think you get a haul like that, and you probably have to say yes, just from an asset management standpoint.
Right. It's a Godfather offer in the way that it's an offer you can't refuse. And I want to go back to the point that you made about everybody being available, because that to me is the most important thing here.
Yep.
It's Kevin Durant right now. We know he's available. He's going to get traded.
Yeah.
Phoenix is trying to posture, but they can't remove the sign going out of business. Everything must go. I've
heard Rich Kleiman's name 10 times in the last week. KD is getting traded. The only time Rich Kleiman comes out of, hiding is to help KD get traded. Right. So it is.
And it's always boardroom CEO Rich Kleiman every time you see the write-up. And I'm like, nobody knows what boardroom is.
Business manager, business
Kevin Durant's
partner.
Business
buddy.
Guy.
His buddy. I'd rather just say it as buddy. Yeah. Like, what if KD was just like, it wasn't someone he did business with. He just called up, hey, buddy, can you talk to the Suns for me? That's what it feels like. Yeah. I mean, it's literally what it is. I mean,
Dave, this guy he's the boardroom CEO.
He's showing up to make deals. The art of the deal is to get KD to another team where he can get the coach fired.
Wasn't there a year where they announced, was it when he went to Brooklyn, they announced it via Instagram Live, and it was supposed to be like this big decision type thing, and
weren't they doing like a media launch?
Yeah. Maybe that's what boardroom is.
I guess. I don't know.
But the point being, Durant is not going to go for 4 first-round picks because Phoenix has lost all their leverage.
He wasn't going to anyway. The guy is 36 years old and is injury prone. I mean, he's good for 65
Free
games
agent next
maybe
year if he wants to be.
Yeah,
right? I mean, have to deal with the new contract.
Right. Listen, Kevin Durant is still an amazing player, and especially considering his age. You think Kevin Durant's going to be the best player on a title team next season?
I want to put a pin in the Kevin Durant part because I do want to ask you a little bit more about Kevin Durant. But with Bane, that's the price to get the guy who's not for sale.
Right.
That's going up to somebody's door. It's $1 million home and saying, I'll offer you $2 million. And then you got to turn around and say, honey, I guess we're moving.
Yep.
Like, we can't turn that down. And that's how you get guys. That's Mikal Bridges. It's Desmond Bane. And
usually, though, it's your last piece, right? And like Indy kind of did something similar when they got Pascal Siakam.
Yep, 3 firsts.
Better move.
Yep.
Obviously, in hindsight. Mikal Bridges, that one is a little bit of I mean, now, obviously, in hindsight, we look back and you say, oof, that's a rough one.
I didn't love it at the time, but to your point, New York thought last puzzle piece.
Right. And I think that, you look at Desmond Bane and you add Bane to what they've got there, that's pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
Suggs and Bane, they complement each other
It's
pretty
a perfect
well.
fit.
You know, Bane always, to me, like I had him number 2 in that draft. I had him ahead of Halliburton. I think that we've maybe talked about this. Like that's the draft that got me to quit doing draft work because of Bane and Halliburton. Bane, his ability to create off the dribble, completely unheralded coming out of college. The guy was essentially a point guard in college. I mean, you know, he's built the way he's built. I think that sticks in the back of everyone's mind, but he can be he is more of a combo guard than he is a 2. You add him to the mix with another guy like Suggs, who is a combo guard. And the truth is their offense in Orlando fell off a cliff when Suggs was out last year. So Bane gives you a guy who can hold the offense up when Suggs isn't out there. Suggs obviously does a good job. It gets the ball out of Paolo's hands more, which I think is very important for their success. And then you look at a guy like, I mean, Goga to me is perfect with Bane because he can get into that pick and pop. So I think that they did a pretty good job. He's not a championship piece for them, but he's like, they're fighting for home court advantage potentially.
It's a
year.
bet that Paolo is going to make that superstar leap, which I'm here for. I love Paolo. Franz might be the guy who makes a superstar leap. They've got 2 guys who are capable of it. Suggs has to stay healthy. That's another big bet here. But they've said, you know what? I've always been anti Orlando going and getting the ball dominant point guard. Yeah. They have clearly decided for Paolo and Franz to hit their ceiling, they need to have the ball in their hands. They got to be stressed. It's not going to be pretty, and it has not been pretty for 2 years now, but we got to go through this John Taffer bar rescue stress test. We got to do it with them, because if we don't do it, they're never going to hit that. We might be better. We might get a top 4 seed in the East, but we're not going to hit the championship level. And they've always had that eye on the prize in that way. I think with Bane, to your point, he's exactly what he doesn't need the ball in his hands, but when they need him to have the ball in his hands, he can do it. And Suggs, by the way, is again, if he could stay healthy, he can also do it. I thought he actually took a pretty big leap as a point guard last year and then got hurt.
He was amazing.
But Banchero and Franz are just that's a bet on them. I don't think they're done.
Defensively, they are going to be tough.
Oh my gosh,
really tough.
Yep.
I mean, you think about just the ability to switch at the point of attack now with Bane and Suggs. Man, they're going to be tough.
Super underrated thing.
They need a better offense. They need a better offense, but other than that, they're going to be pretty good.
Let's talk Kevin Durant.
Well, wait. I want to talk about the Memphis side of this.
Oh, let's do it.
Because I think Memphis is now in a interesting spot.
Yes.
It's harder to extend Jaren Jackson Jr. because they got a little bit less money for now. But also that Phoenix pick and the KCP contract. Very interesting. If I'm looking at what Memphis has sitting right there, right? I think you've got a nice fat contract and you have a pick that Phoenix 2026 pick is a real pick. And it looks pretty good. And whether it's, hey, Phoenix, are you interested in this? Because they don't want to rebuild. Their idea is they're going to reboot. They're going to send Kevin Durant somewhere, get some good players coming back, and be able to compete next season. Now, I think they're insane. They probably need to consider blowing it up, but you use that to your advantage. I mean, who's the GM in Phoenix? I can't remember the guy's name.
It's the Michigan State. The other Michigan
exactly.
State guy.
He doesn't have any idea. Hey, buddy, do you want your pick back next year? What about KCP? This guy's a champion.
What are you targeting there? Are you targeting Durant?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a couple of young guys. Maybe it's Ryan Dunn, Osa Iguodala. I don't know. Maybe you're just looking to fill out your bench.
Maybe it's a 3-teamer.
It's Memphis. Right. It's Memphis, right? Like, who knows? Yeah. But I think that you've got some opportunity there. But also, what if they're deciding this team can't compete in the West?
Right.
Our best player, our star, can't play more than 60 games a season. Maybe the time to get out is now. Now, I think Ja would have been an interesting move for Orlando, right? Like if they would have I would have been less surprised by a trade for Ja Morant by Orlando than the Bane trade. I think the Bane trade is a good trade.
Right. Well, now if you're another team, you've got to call Memphis and be like, what's up with these guys? And they are signaling out, every reporter is saying this after the Bane trade, this does not mean that Memphis is trading Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson. The plan is to build around those guys. You know what that sounds very similar to? When Danny Ainge traded Royce O'Neal and said, this has nothing to do with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. And then what happened? Both Rudy Gobert got sent away for 1 million draft picks. Donovan Mitchell, they got a haul for Donovan Mitchell.
Yep.
But that's how you posture if you're a front office, because again, you don't want the going out of business, everything must go sign outside of your door. You want to operate from a position of strength. And so if I'm another GM, I'm saying, if we like Ja, we're calling about Ja. If we like Jaren Jackson Jr., we're calling about him too.
What would it even take to get Jaren? I mean,
I think they'd be looking at the Bane kind of thing. It'd be 3, 4, 5 first-round picks, something like that, depending on the quality of the first.
Unless it's the Lakers, and then it's like Austin Reeves and someone's used Cadillac.
Throw Vanderbilt in there, and,
right?
And you got a deal.
I don't know. I've been thinking about these two guys for about 6 months, because I actually thought the Ja thing was going to potentially happen this summer. But the Jaren, like, I assumed that whatever the next version of the Grizzlies looked like, it was going to have Bane and Jaren Jackson on it, not Ja.
Right.
And so now it's thrown everything up in the air. I think a move, like if they moved away from Jaren Jackson, I mean, you've seen him for years, right? Does this guy look like a key piece on a title team at this point? I don't know anymore. I thought he was on track to be that guy, but you know, obviously the fouls are still a huge problem with him. He can't stay on the court.
Right. Rebounding is an issue.
Rebound's a huge problem. And like the NBA now is such you have to win the possession battle.
Yep.
You have to. Especially Memphis, because they just don't shoot enough threes. And then think about the style of play that they switched to. Right?
Yeah, with Edie.
And they are actually going to, I think, go even further into that under Isola.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be more pace to their game. I don't know, like, not to say that you get rid of a great player because of the coach and the style of play, but it does feel like the organization is making a philosophical shift in the way
and
that
a younger coach
things.
too, right? This is maybe a situation.
If you were going to reboot, this is a great time to do it internally, and you would get the maximum haul. I mean, would Utah be interested in Jaren Jackson?
Oh,
probably. Well, I think you've got to think about
Salt Lake City.
Yes, but I don't know if you can bring Ja Morant to Salt Lake City. If you know what I mean,
right?
I'm not sure if that's a fit. If you're thinking that way, but Jaren and Lauri Markkanen is a pretty good start, right? Maybe I don't know what you do, but everything is open now. I mean, all of the stuff that we've heard about how this is going to be a crazy summer, I hear the same thing.
Jaren Jackson
Everyone's
Jr.
available.
Is so. I've had my ear to the ground on Jaren Jackson Jr. for a few months now, because this extension is a big deal, and he's got that weird extension where he can remove a year or get a raise for a year, and then extend off of that, and he doesn't have to do it. And they just traded Desmond Bane. And next offseason, he could be the biggest free agent of the class next offseason, because if we assume Durant is going to extend, LeBron signs opts in or extends or whatever he does, like suddenly the 2026 big class, Luka Doncic, that James Harden, all those guys can go away because they all are on new contracts, and Jaren Jackson could be sitting there being like, who's going to pay me $50 million a year?
Nobody has the money. That's the thing, though.
Not right now, but maybe next summer they might.
I don't know. I think that the way that cap space is being used now, everyone's flirting with the apron, and it's difficult because as you know, like having a contract on the books is actually a team building move. This is why KCP is pretty important now for what Memphis has going on. Just having that contract slot. I just don't know. I mean, free agency, I was pretty sure was dead. But then Paul George signs in Philly last year, and you say, oh, maybe it's just guys who are in that top 25, top 30. So if you're Jaren, I don't know. You have an interesting decision to make.
Right.
But I think
the ball's in his court, in other words, right? He could
100%.
just say, I'm not going to sign that extension. And then Memphis almost has to trade him.
They have
to. It'd be very interesting to see what they do here. I'm not sure.
If you're Jaren Jackson, would you want to go somewhere else? Like, is there a better position? I guess like realistic, right? Like if you could get to the Lakers and you're Jaren Jackson, you probably would love to do that, because that looks like it's going to be a great setup.
If I'm Jaren Jackson, with Luka. I would. You want to toe the line here, right? Because you don't want to end up getting traded somewhere you don't want to be. But then again, you don't always have to sign the extension anywhere either. I would be very interested in.
He's not a guy that's going to get traded to the Wizards. That's just not
No.
going to happen. Yeah.
No. He would be viewed as like, okay, can we make him the third piece on a title team?
Right.
And then if you're Memphis, then we talk about, hey, 4 or 5 first-round picks, things like that. I could see the Grizzlies going either way. I could see the Grizzlies being like, you know what? We don't have to make a decision now. Maybe it's a trade deadline thing for us, but let's just go into the season with Morant and Jaren Jackson and just figure it out. Or they could say, nobody's for sale, but we'll listen to phone calls and then.
I mean, the Bane trade, I think, has made everyone realize they'll trade anyone.